This is the Rebel Call channel. Welcome to today's show. Suddenly, conveniently, our government officials are doing their best to stop human trafficking. Suddenly, they care about the issue of human trafficking. Of course, we know that the government couldn't care less about human trafficking because the reason that human trafficking occurs and nobody gets arrested and so many children go missing is, of course, because the government is fully responsible for all of the trafficking. All these agencies that exist are fronts, of course, for human trafficking and drug trafficking. And human trafficking, which is what they're calling it now, is nothing really more than child trafficking. And that's because satanic ritual abuse is the foundation of our government. That's what they partake in. That's what they practice. And you won't believe this story, but I guess some of you will. In Tennessee, and these are stories we need to monitor, what states are coming out and starting to push this stuff, because of course we know they're going to normalize this with both conservatives and Democrats. And Marsha Blackburn in Tennessee is rolling out the Child ID program. And for those of you who have maybe seen a channel that sounds a lot like mine over the years, you might remember who's responsible for the Child ID program, the National Child Identification Program. And it's none other than the Freemasons. But of course, I'll show you that after the fact here. I'll show you what they're airing in Tennessee to make people think that these conservatives are caring about finding your children, but all they really want is your children's DNA. I've warned about this, I've talked about this, and this actually lines up specifically with the video I just put up over on the website about the cancer magic potion that they're rolling out and how it's going to be specifically coded to each individual. You may have seen some movies in the past, like the James Bond movie, which correlated a lot with DNA and being able to target specific people using DNA. But you may have also noticed that everybody's so interested all of a sudden in finding out who their long-lost relatives are and don't even realize they're willingly giving their DNA to the government by submitting their DNA to places like Ancestry.com, which are all government-owned and government-controlled. And this is another tactic to get your children's DNA. Because again, it's about getting a certain something, nanotech, inside of you, and also at the same time, having your DNA. This is what they're talking about in Tennessee, of course. Instead of mentioning Freemasonry, who are the ones who created the National Child ID program, they're actually calling and saying that the NFL is the one who's helping out. And what's really the difference? The NFL was set up by Freemasons. For anybody out there that doesn't know, I have videos on the website about that as well. Walter Camp, Amos, these other guys who were really the pioneers of creating the NFL, were all members of Skull and Bones and Freemasons, because they all are. And that's how these things become big and prominent. But let's start with what they're rolling out in Tennessee, trying to tell you that they care about your kids. But again, at the end of the day, all of these secret societies are the ones responsible for your children going missing. You couldn't go missing if you tried in today's world, with the amount of cameras on every street corner, with the phones and the cell towers pinging every cell phone. You couldn't go missing if you wanted to. Trust me, I'd like to go missing myself sometimes, okay? We all know that they could find you wherever they want to find you. But conveniently, they could just never find these children. And thousands go missing a day and aren't accounted for because they're underground. And the underground tunnels and the underground cities that the government has created with our tax money. But they're going to pretend like they care about your kids. Just, of course, give them your DNA.
This morning, the TBI, Metro Police, and United States Senator Marsha Blackburn are working together to combat what they're calling the missing children crisis. Peyton Kennedy is live at Nissan Stadium now, where their conference just happened. Peyton.
Yeah, and they also work together with a law enforcement organization called Noble, as well as the NFL alumni base that is here locally. They're talking about these National Child ID Program kits. They will be distributing about 85,000 of these throughout the state of Tennessee. And essentially what it is a chance for parents to gather their child's DNA and fingerprints so they have it on record in case of an unfortunate missing person situation. They talked about the prominence of this, the statistics. About 350,000 kids each year go missing. That's about 1,000 kids per day. Some of the NFL alumni who spoke today noted that this kit is just an extra layer of protection for those families.
As players, we go out there with pads on. We have helmets, shoulder pads, and you see all the stuff that players, well, do we expect to get hurt? No. Do we want to get hurt? No. But if we for some reason we happen to get hurt, it won't be as bad. It's the same thing with this kid. You don't want your kid, we don't want anyone to be abducted. We don't want anyone to be hurt. We don't want anyone to have to go through that. But for some reason, something bad happens, we have some padding.
Senator Marsha Blackburn also talked about a few pieces of legislation she's working on, including the Report Act. So this makes changes to the federal rules of reporting crimes that involve online sexual exploitation of children. This passed unanimously in the Senate, and she tells me that it will be heading to the president next week for signature.
The kit holds children's fingerprints and other identifying information to be given to law enforcement in case of an emergency. It's something Hubbard thinks is crucial to bring missing children home.
That's right. Now, 85,000 of these kits will be distributed to Tennessee families this fall. It's basically a prevention tool where you could that parent could collect your child's fingerprint as well as saliva in the event they ever go missing. That way you could take this kit, bring it to law enforcement, and speed up that investigation process. So let me show you how it works. You basically grab this activation solution, you open it up, you put your thumb right on the inkless solution. You then put your thumb, dab it right here. And then this part is where you're going to put your lips on it, and that way that will collect your saliva.
So it shows you how sick this is, right? I mean, it's really sick, it's really twisted, but they play onto people's heartstrings. These people do not understand about DNA. They do not understand about how they're trying to alter your genetic code. They just don't get it. Even people who think that they're awake are not understanding this. And they think that something like this is going to prevent their child from going missing. Like, hey, your neighbor could get your kids. Just give your DNA out of your child. Don't be suspicious at all about that. It's really important you get your DNA of your child out, because suddenly they'll be able to find and make sure your child never goes missing again. Of course, like I said earlier, you saw the pamphlets in that clip. Okay, these are the same exact pamphlets. They're using the same exact logo that the Freemasons use. The only thing that's different is that they've removed the Freemason logo from this government program because they don't want you to realize that the government is run and controlled. Well, everybody in the government, left and right, are Freemasons. They're either Eastern Star or they're Freemasons. They're members of secret societies, some way higher up. They go through Skull and Bones, etc. But the foundation is Freemasonry. Okay, and they're the ones responsible. Their motto is order out of chaos. You're seeing it unfold right now in your day-to-day life. But does that program look a lot like this program? Here are the clips, which are very hard to find now. But thankfully, I got them saved, of the CHlLD program. These are over the last 10, 15 years that they've been airing on local affiliates, trying to get your kids' DNA.
My particular lodge got involved with the CHlLD program about 5 years ago. Before that, we were just a lodge that did ritual, and we wanted to get out into the community. And so a number of us contacted Grand Lodge, Chris Siebenmark, and we started out with a elementary school in the area, and it was sort of successful. But then after that, we started, brainstorming, and we got into, like today, we're doing an air show here. And at this particular air show, we've done up to 300 children in 2 days. We all wanted to be Masons, but we also wanted something more than just the Masonry. So we wanted to, again, get out into the community and try and help people out. And we've partnered with the Phoenix Lodge to get members from their lodge and our lodge together to help staff an event like this. So we've become very close with the Phoenix Lodge.
As being a Mason, I just came in and decided that I wanted to help do something, so we promoted the CHlLD. It's a free program for children. We really enjoy our children and want to keep them safe. I've been a Mason for 15 years, and I'm trying to give back to the community. We're just trying to do a good job and help save a child.
Now, on other occasions, we've needed additional help. Our members were not available, so we brought in the D-Malay and the Rainbow Girls as well to help us do these events. And it's a great partnership because for us, we can staff the event, and for the D-Malay and for the Rainbow Girls, it gives them some community service. So it's just been really, really awesome.
I'm a pediatric nurse, and to me it's very valuable to see that our children are protected. Tomorrow we'll have a whole group of the youth that will be here. Even though we're not from the Plymouth Rock Lodge, we're supporting them because they don't have a youth group of their own. So it's some role modeling of what the Masons do and role models for the kids about what they can do and how they can be involved in the community.
I didn't know this existed before coming to the program tonight. It just seemed like a good idea to have record of my kid and information on file somewhere, so that way if anything ever happened to him or if anybody ever took him, then there'd be a better way of finding him.
The reason I'm interested in the Child ID program is because it just makes it easier, just in case, say, you do turn around and all of a sudden your child runs off. We've all had it happen. And it just makes it easier for you to find them without having so much stress and worry.
The information that the Masons get, I mean, it's just vital. It's great information. It's a lot of information. I mean, if you go on vacation and your child gets lost, you have that information with you. That's something you can give to the police. Somebody can be getting that information off of that CD about your child. You're looking for your child. Other police officers are looking for your child. More people who are out looking, the greater chance you have of finding, or a quicker chance of finding your child.
Tonight's What's Working? There is a program in place to create identification kits for children. These kits can be used by law enforcement if a child is reported missing. And the program is run all by volunteers. News 5's Devin Walsh caught up with them as they were working with children at a summer safety camp at Spring Hill College.
We're going to place it on here, and you watch the screen and it's going to jump up there. See?
The Grand Lodge of Alabama's Child Identification Program is in full swing at this urban survival camp at Spring Hill College.
But we got your paperwork. How you doing today?
These volunteers are putting together an identification pack for each child.
Look at this as an insurance policy, and we hope that they never get used, but in the event that your child ever does go missing, we think you'll be very glad that you have this information available.
Mike Griffon runs the program in Lower Alabama. He says technology changes mean fingerprinting is done digitally instead of using ink.
Now we're going to get a picture of you.
They also take pictures of each child and record a video.
We print out a form like this, which has the fingerprints and photographs and a couple of ID cards on the bottom of it. It all also goes on here, along with the video and the voice recording.
Volunteers say this puts vital information all in one place for parents if a child ever goes missing.
When you get upset when your child is missing, you can't always remember everything. So they can go somewhere and pull all of this information out and give it to the authorities, and they have that information just like that.
Having it is a consolation for the parent, and it's reassurance that if something happens, that they can help and not just have to worry.
What's so beneficial about this information is that once you hand it over to law enforcement, if your child is missing, they can enter it into the Amber Alert system immediately because it has all the characteristics about your child in one place.
But if they go to their sock drawer and sweep their hand through the sock drawer, they're going to find that envelope, and they can just hand that envelope to law enforcement and say, here, it's all in here. Fingerprints, photos, voice prints, the works. It's all in there.
It takes dedicated volunteers to run the program, but they say if it helps just one family, their efforts are worth it. For What's Working, I'm Devin Walsh.
All right, so parents here in Connecticut are now able to track their children with this new CT chip, it's called.
Yeah, the Connecticut Freemasons are bringing this program to communities around the state, also to Barberino Nissan. It's happening on Saturday. And joining us today from Barberino Nissan is the executive manager, Brittany Barberino, with CT Chip volunteer, April Mercure, and Frank Mangero. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you.
Brittany, let's start with you. Why did you guys decide to have an event like this?
It's a great event. It's free for parents, and it gives you a kit where it lets you identify your child if something were to happen to them, and it saves hours for police work, and it's really, really important.
And how did the Freemasons become involved in this and sort of...
Well, actually, the Massachusetts Freemasons were doing this, and in 2003 we brought it to the state of Connecticut. And it was a very archaic system then, recording on VHS tapes, and it's evolved to be on DVDs, and now it's on a flash flash drive. And we have this little flash drive that has the information, height, weight, hair color, eye color, and then we also do dental imprints, DNA swab, and which is also a scent sample, pictures, and a video of the child. So if your child becomes missing, you can give this pack to the police, and within an hour or so they could have an Amber Alert out there with all the pertinent identifying information.
Wow, this is crucial. I mean, why wouldn't parents everywhere do this? It's
Right.
so important to have on hand.
It's a really good program.
You would be amazed how many parents are apprehensive, and it's like, what do you have to lose?
Right.
You have everything to gain, nothing to lose. It's very remarkable.
And what's been your experience with the program, April? What have you seen from it?
I've been thrown into doing most of the dental, so I'm sticking my fingers in their mouths.
Yeah. You're like, I'm glad I got tasked with that one.
Yeah, but I'm sure parents are so happy once they go through this and to have this handy.
Absolutely. And the kids are apprehensive too, but then once they do it, they're like, can I do it again? Can I get the thumbprints down again? I'm like,
Yeah, it's a free program. It's free for the parents. You know, we volunteer our time, the Freemasons in Connecticut. There are 9 districts. We have 9 different setups in Connecticut. And so at any given time on any weekend, there could be a number of CHIP events going on throughout the state.
Yeah, well, it's great that you've been able to partner up with Barberino Nissan, and it's great that you're able to serve the community in this way. And we have all the information right here, all the details, so please go to that event, support them. It's all going down this Saturday, April 13th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. So we want to thank...
And maybe get a car while you're there.
Absolutely.
Right?
Why not?
The new Nissans are beautiful.
Well, there you go. It's a win-win for everyone. Thank you all for being here and for what you do.
Thank you.
All right, stay with us. More style coming up after the break.
So again, it's an orchestrated effort to get DNA. It's been an orchestrated effort, and they've used a lot of different means to get it. What are the means that they've used? Well, they've, for starters, convinced you because of these shows that they've rolled out, which is just hilarious to me that people actually fall for this, right? We see conservatives fall for this stuff. Oh, I love that show. The Ancestry show, Roots. Oh, yeah. Oh, as if the celebrities don't know that they're all related to one another, right? And the whole reason for the show being out there and celebrities willingly going on the show, even though they all know who they're related to, is so they can convince you that you may find out that you're related to somebody from history, right? But really what they're trying to do is get you to send a sample of your DNA to the government. And that's the only reason. Ancestry, and what are some of the other ones? 24 and 23andMe, a bunch of these other ones. The only reason they exist is to try their best to get you to willingly send and submit your DNA to them. And now they're using the Freemasonic tactic here to lure people into sending their DNA, thinking that it has something to do with making sure kids don't go missing and kids don't get abducted, right? This has been going on for a long time. The government doesn't suddenly care about your kids going missing because your government's responsible for your kids going missing, right? They've even had to peddle stuff out in the past, some of the articles that I've covered. Why are Freemasons collecting your kids' DNA? Oh, because they're such great people. You know, these people who have, all of this Egyptian literature that talks about ancient Babylonian texts that all kind of goes back to devil worship because, of course, it's revealed that Lucifer is God to these people. And, of course, in the Old Testament, we learn very quickly about Baal worship and sacrificing children. So if you connect the dots, it's really easy to see where these kids are going and who's responsible, the people who worship Lucifer. But again, they want you to think that they don't worship Lucifer. In fact, they don't want you to think about Freemasonry at all. And you never hear the alt-right ever talk about Freemasonry, ever, right? When I talk about these fake alt-right conservatives that are out there who are trying to peddle the left-right paradigm to you, you've never heard them talk about Freemasonry. They never expose secret societies, ever, because that's the one thing they will not expose, and they will not really expose the origins of the trafficking. But they realize that they can get a lot of people, play on their emotional heartstrings by talking about these events with children and then making you think that they're just buying and selling kids so they can make Nike sneakers. And they never go into the origins about satanic ritual abuse. They might touch on it a little bit. But let's be realistic here. They will never go into detail about Freemasonry. They'll never go into detail about Eastern Star. They certainly the only person I can recall in the last 20 years who's no longer on YouTube, but now is back on YouTube under another alias, who actually talks about the child programs, the DMLA, Job's Daughters, Rainbow Girls. These are children organizations that children are recruited in, and they're mentored by Freemasons and Eastern Star witches. They start teaching them the occult. They start grooming them openly. This is happening in our towns. They're grooming children to become Masons, to become Eastern Star witches. Their logos speak for themselves. I mean, the Eastern Star logo, which is the female version, is literally an upside-down pentagram, okay? You can put it right next to the logo for the Satanic Temple. It's the same thing. Oh, right, but none of them worship Satan, right? And they go after your children. They groom your children. They don't want you to know this stuff. That's why nobody ever talks about it. It's why you're removed for talking about it. But I don't really care. I'll talk about it over and over and over again. This right here is confirmation to a lot of things I've been talking about over the years. This is a Freemasonic program. Of course, the Freemasons are the government. They work with the government. They're all in the government, so let's be real. But look, the government's openly coming out in a conservative state, rolling out the National Child ID program, trying to trick people out there into thinking that, oh, well, we care about the kids in the NFL. Of course, they're rubbing shoulders with another Masonic organization, the NFL, right, who's connected fully to Freemasonry. It's filled with Freemasonic numerology, the 33-yard field goal, etc., for the extra point, all deliberate things they put in there. I've covered it many times in the past. Of course, we know about the halftime shows and everything else. But you can see all, if you go through all the Masonic CHIP organizations, right? The CHIP, they call it, Child Identification Program, Missouri, Florida. You see the Masons talking about it, bragging about it, because they play the role in your town that they come out during the parades, they come out during town events, they sit there. I'm sure you've seen them at your town. You probably didn't even notice them. Now, maybe if you're new to this, you will. They sit there with their little hats on. They sit there with their little donation cup, and they pretend like they care about children. They pretend they care about community, and they don't. It's a front. If you were the devil, if you were somebody who was, doing these types of acts, well, how else were you going to get away with it unless you do the opposite out in public? You pretend that you're signing up and you're doing children's hospital events, you're doing charitable events for your town. Well, how else do you think the devil is going to get away with it in plain sight? You think they're going to sit out there and be like, yeah, we abduct kids, yeah, we do all this stuff with kids? Of course not. Why? Because, well, the same thing would happen to them that's happened in the past. The civilians would rise up against them and stop them. But unfortunately, everybody believes this stuff. It's amazing what we've gotten to, the level of discernment, where all it takes is somebody to say they're a Christian or to say they get baptized or to say that they're a truther, and everybody believes it. They take them at their word. Nobody looks at the fruits of these people. Nobody looks at the stuff that they're saying. Nobody looks at the back talk. Nobody looks at the signs and symbols. They reveal themselves to us every single day. So the government does not suddenly care about identifying lost children. But what they do care about is your DNA. And they will do everything in their power to make sure they have your DNA on file. And they'll continue to do that. But specifically, they want to come after your children's DNA, which is what the Masons have been trying to do. And this is the same exact program. It's the same exact name. It's the same exact logo. The only thing missing is that when they show you their pamphlet for this program, they've removed the Freemason logo from it and replaced it with the NFL's logo. And if you're dumb enough to fall for this stuff and you don't realize what's going on, well, I guess you're just somebody who gets duped over and over and over again. But I hope the people who listen to my channel aren't the type of people to get duped. Most of you have heard me cover this many times. Nobody's really here anymore who has heard those videos in the past. They are available on the website, but I tried to give you a little bit of a clip there of some of the clips I've used in the past, which you can't find anymore because they don't want you to realize that this group of people is involved in every facet of government, okay? Republican and Democrat. And that's why the Republicans are calling on this program. And they're not the only state. Virginia has also been talking about this. But you need to remember, they want your DNA. They want your DNA and they want something inside your body. They both go hand in hand with each other. They need to do both. I thank everybody for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.